Hello, welcome to today's webinar, Social Media Basics for Small Business. So glad to have everyone here. Thank you so much for taking the time of your day to sit and listen to me and then talk to me and get to know a little bit about social media for your business. So just a little introduction. My name is Sarah Burke and I'm going to be your presenter today. I'm also the content marketer at Spoko. And I've been doing this job for about 9 months or so not even a year, but it's an amazing job and it gives me the opportunity to talk to small business owners and startups all the time and to get to know what they really need and what they really want to know about. And one of the things that I notice that I get asked a lot about is social media. And these questions vary wildly from person to person. Sometimes it's more advanced, sometimes it's intermediate, sometimes it's very, very basic. What I found is that a lot of people had questions on the foundation of social media, so the very basics of social media, and they wanted to get that right before they moved on to anything more complicated. So while I can answer all these questions individually, and while I can have these discussions with each person that asks me the question, I'm a firm believer that if one person's asking a specific question, then there's going to be about 10 other people behind them asking the same thing, but they're just not vocalizing it. So I wanted to put together a webinar on the topic that would be super useful, that would give people a really good foundation for getting on social media for their business. So here's what we're going to be talking about today. Firstly, I'm going to talk about why social media is so great for your business. And then I'm going to move on. I'm going to discuss the top 5 social media platforms. And I'm going to go into those in a little bit of detail. Then I'm going to discuss what to share, how often to share it, when to share it. And I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to give you some actionable tips on how to get started with all of that. So before we begin, just a few little housekeeping details. Firstly, this webinar will be recorded. And a replay of the webinar will be sent to you a few hours after the webinar finishes, so straight to your inbox. There will be 5 minutes for Q&A at the end of the webinar, but feel free to leave a question in the chat as I'm going through the webinar, but I won't get to answer it until the end because I am hosting and presenting this all on my own and it's a little bit hard going from one thing to the next. So I'm not ignoring you if you write a question in the chat box. I'll just get to it later on at the end of the webinar. So let's jump right in. Why is social media so great for your small business? It's an important question to ask because if you're not convinced that social media will benefit your business, then you'll probably be less likely to devote the time and energy to it that it needs. So the first reason social media is so great for your business is that everyone is on social media. Now, normally this isn't a reason to do anything, but the thing is with marketing, if your audience is there and your competition is there and the conversations are there, you need to be there too. And if you're not, you're missing a huge opportunity. So people are on social media to ask questions, to get information, to start conversations. So if you're not there to answer those questions, to have those conversations, to give that information, you can guarantee that your competition is. Because 87% of B2Bs and 86% of B2Cs are on social media. So there are answers, there are conversations already happening on social media with businesses and your target audience. 89% of 18 to 29-year-olds and 82% of 30 to 49-year-olds are already on social media too. And again, that's a huge percentage of the population. That means that there's huge potential to market your business there. So a lot of people say, oh, I don't need to be on social media because, you know, my target audience is. Well, the chances are that they are. The chances are they are on social media of some kind, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest. They're on some kind of social media platform because most people are nowadays. The second reason that social media is so great for your business is that it guides purchasing decisions. Consumers are 71% more likely to make a purchase based on social media referrals. Out of 53% of consumers who said they use Twitter to recommend companies or products in their tweets, 48% actually bought that service or product. That means people aren't just recommending things and products and services on Twitter for the sake of it. They're actually buying these products. 74% of consumers rely on social networks to guide purchasing decisions. So people are aware that they rely on social networks. People almost go to social media to help them guide themselves through purchasing decisions. So if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, if you're on any of these platforms for personal use, you'll have recognized this already. You'll have seen people saying, hey guys, should I purchase these pair of shoes or these pair of shoes? Is this service good or is this service good? Where can I find this service? Where can I find this product? People actually go onto social media to get advice on their purchasing decisions. The third reason social media is so great for small businesses is that it encourages word of mouth. So before the internet, we had a vocal word of mouth, obviously. We would talk to our neighbors, we talk to our friends, and we talk to acquaintances and shopkeepers, and we'd have all these conversations, you know, over the backyard fence, walking down the street, when we bump into people in the market. But now social media is the new word of mouth. 81% of US online consumers' purchasing decisions are influenced by their friends' social media posts. And 43% of consumers are more likely to buy a new product when learning about it on social media. So people are hearing about things on social media, and then they go and make a purchase based on that. And the final reason that social media is so great for small business is that it helps with SEO. So social signals from likes, tweets, shares, all that good stuff tell search engine bots that your content is good. And they use this information to rank you higher in search engine result pages. And this is a trend that's happening more and more and more as the years go on, and as search engines are becoming more advanced and taking different things into account. Social is becoming a huge influencer on where your page will rank in search engine queries. So now that we've established why social media is so great for your small business, let's talk about what's going on in these social media platforms that make it so good for your business. Imagine that this is your website. So a customer comes in and they like what you do and they have a great customer experience and they leave, but as our customers are wont to do nowadays, they want to keep in contact with you on social media. Now, a lot of people want to do this nowadays. They want to keep in contact for great content, discounts, coupons, offers, to keep up to date with what you're doing. People want to keep in contact with businesses on social media more and more nowadays. And this gives you another opportunity to engage with them, to give them an even better customer experience, to give them amazing content, to keep them interested in what you're doing. And that will mean that they continuously make purchases with you, and you retain them as a customer because they like what you do in all aspects. You're staying top of mind for them. So that's the first way that social media engagement works. But there is a secondary function, and that is that it drives social visibility. So when your customer who has had the great experience leaves and keeps in contact with you, is liking and sharing your content, their friends are seeing that content. So they're spreading the word. And this means new prospects, and new prospects hopefully means new customers. So there are two cycles happening here. The first is retaining customers, and the second is gaining new ones. So which social media platform is best for your business? There are tons out there, and there's more growing every single day. You can't be on them all. That's the reality. Nobody has enough time, especially if you're running a business, to be on every single social media platform. And I don't have time to go through them all either. So I'm just going to focus on the top 5, which are Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+, and of course, Facebook. So let's start with Facebook, which is the most popular social media network out there. Everyone is on it. That is your audience, everyone. And they're looking for text posts, images, videos, memes, anything interesting, anything entertaining, anything educational. And that's what makes Facebook so great for sharing photos, for sharing videos, for sharing textual content. Everything works quite well here. And everyone uses it too. So B2Bs, B2Cs, nonprofits, they're all on Facebook, and they all market successfully on Facebook, or they at least can market quite successfully on Facebook. The second most popular platform is Twitter. It has a lot of users with 650 million. It is, on average, people are a little bit younger, but their income tends to be a little bit higher. People go onto Twitter for news, brand updates, trends, anything that is up to date, that's becoming viral, is going to hit Twitter probably faster than most of the other social media networks. That's why it's so good for sharing original content, curated content, news, updates, discounts, offers, anything interesting, opinion pieces, you know, anything that's kind of keeping people up to date, and giving people the newest information. Because of that, it's really good for B2Bs, B2Cs, and nonprofits. Very like Facebook, where most types of companies, most types of businesses can market effectively on it. LinkedIn, however, is a little bit more specific. It's a business-oriented social media platform and has 300 million people on it, but they only spend about 4 hours or less a week. People go on to LinkedIn to get industry news, tips, advice, business-related content, and it's best for thought leadership. So whether you want to be a thought leader or you want to read content from thought leaders, it's amazing for this. But it's only effective for B2Bs mostly. So B2Cs, consumer-facing businesses, can't or don't really effectively market themselves excuse me, on LinkedIn. It's mostly B2Bs. It is business oriented. It is about the industry, about marketing, about tech news. So B2Cs don't get as much bang out of their buck or as much success on LinkedIn as they might on other social media platforms. Google Plus has an audience of 550 million active monthly users. They're mostly men and they're mostly professionals. It's really good for news, links, content, blog posts, videos. It's kind of like Facebook in that all content, it works quite effectively on it. It's highlighted quite well. And it's best for increasing your expertise and searchability. It has an amazing community, so they call them Google Plus communities, and you can search a niche subject, a niche topic. So for example, SEO for beginners. And you can join this community and you can read about content in that specific topic. So it increases your expertise, and if you're writing about that specific topic, if you're creating content on that specific topic, you can also share that content in these communities, which is amazing. In terms of increasing searchability, if you get a lot of engagement and shares and plus ones on Google Plus, it increases, or it increases your searchability through search engine result pages on Google. So Google takes into account if you're quite popular in Google Plus, and it gives you a little bit of an SEO boost. It's used by B2Bs and B2Cs mostly. Pinterest, like LinkedIn, is a niche social media platform. 80% of its 70 million active monthly users are women, and they tend to have a higher income. Pinterest is all about visual photos of products, high quality photos of products, great graphics, infographics, all work really effectively on Pinterest. And it's used by B2Cs mostly. And it really is effective for B2Cs who get more referral traffic on Pinterest than they do on Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, and Google Plus combined. So Pinterest for consumer-facing businesses can be a lifesaver. And of course, there are other social media platforms. I wanted to go into the top 5 in detail, but there are Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, Sue, Tumblr. There are tons out there. And like I said, there are more coming out every single day. And sometimes these social media platforms that are a little bit off the beaten path, a little bit more alternative, can actually work better for business because they're not as noisy. There's not as many other businesses vying for your audience's attention. So they can be quite effective. If you're not on these social media platforms for personal use, before you dive into them, I would suggest getting on them for personal use and getting to know the communities and getting to know how it works. Particularly for Reddit, for example, which is a very specific community and there's a very specific etiquette to it. But definitely looking into the more alternative social media platforms is a good idea if you don't think that any of the social media platforms will really work for you. But what do you actually say on these platforms? So obviously it all depends on your business, of course. And I almost don't like telling people that there's a rule that you should follow, but that's not really useful right now, especially if you just want to get on social media for business and you want to have a guideline. So I'm going to give you one. But before I do, I just want to say that this is a guideline only. Definitely test it, definitely play around it. There is no clear and fast rule for what to say on social media networks. But just as a guideline, the 5-3-2 rule is quite effective. And this just means that for every 10 pieces of content you share, 5 should be curated content from others, 3 should be your own content, and 2 should be personal or entertaining or kind of off-topic content. Again, this is just a template. You're going to start off using a rule. You're going to start off using a guideline, and then you're going to play around it and change it as you see fit, as you see your audience engage with different material more or less. You're going to change it and adapt it and test it and tweak it until it's exactly what you need. And then, you know what, people change and you're going to have to change and tweak and test it again. So curated content is content, if you don't know, that you find from another source in your industry. And a good portion of your content should be curated. So I like to think of social media as, you know, you're sitting at a dinner table and you're having a conversation. Good conversation etiquette requires that you don't just talk about yourself all the time. You talk about other things, and you talk about other topics. And so on social media, you share other content from other people. You're not just sharing your own stuff all the time, because that doesn't generate a really good conversation. That's just talking about yourself. So 50% or a good portion of your content should be curated. And all you have to do is find relevant content in your industry that your audience will love. And you just tag or mention the source so that they see that you're sharing your content. So if, for example, I was sharing content here from the Content Marketing Institute, and I just tagged them, or I mentioned them just at CMI content. So they know I'm sharing their content and I'm building relationships with them. I'm saying to them, I'm reading your content, I like your content, I'm sharing it with my audience. And that builds up a conversation with them and a relationship, which is very important in business. To find curated content, which is always a struggle, and it's like the biggest struggle with content curation is actually finding it. I've found newsletters and social media to be my go-tos. So I will search keywords on social media that I think our audience will be interested in, and I'll look at the posts that are trending or that are being shared the most, or that just catch my eye, and I'll share anything that I think is really interesting. I also make sure that I sign up for as many newsletters as I can, and I go through those every morning and I look at the content that people are sending me. And sometimes you can get some really nice content there because it's not going viral on social media. No one's seen it already, so people really enjoy that. They've seen it from you. Another 3 websites that you can go to is Scoopit, BuzzSumo, and StumbleUpon, and they're all content curation sites. So they all have a whole bunch of content on it that is really, really good. And a 4th one actually is Medium. I would suggest looking at those websites if you're stuck for content. Oh, and Feedly. So there are tons of places to find content to share, and it's just about kind of using them all and figuring out which ones you like the best or which ones share the most content most good, high quality content that your audience will like. 30% of your content should be your own content. But when I say that, I'm not saying that you need to be salesy. It's not about hard selling. It's not about saying, buy this now. Of course, there's a time and place for that. But on social media, it's about conversation. So don't be salesy. Personalize your content. So as much as possible, avoid doing headline plus link. That's what broadcasters do. People see that as social media automation, and social media automation is fine, but you also want people to know that there is a person behind the social media automation. It's not just a bot. There is someone behind it, tweaking it and personalizing it and trying to make it fun and engaging for their audience. And also use visuals as much as possible, because you do get more engagement when you use visuals on social media. It catches the eye. And finally, 20% of your content should be personal or entertaining, or just slightly off topic or slightly less serious. For example, thoughts on life, quotes, satirical cartoons, jokes, statistics, data, an interesting tidbit of information. This Vince Vaughn stock photo marketing ploy that I just thought was hilarious is an example of that. It's not specifically about, inbound marketing, but, most marketers, most businesses use stock photos now and then, hopefully sparingly. And I just thought this was funny, and I thought other people would find it funny. So I shared that as kind of part of that engaging off topic, not just always talking about business content. And this is important, again, to humanize your brand, to humanize your business, to make you more likable, more approachable, so people engage with you. So when to post, tweet, share. Again, this varies from business to business, and you have to test it out to really figure out what works best for you. But I want to give you a guideline on some of the studies that have revealed the best amount to post. So for Facebook, it's 3 times a week, which I know doesn't seem like a lot. Every time I tell somebody this, they're always telling me, oh, I post so much more on Facebook. Yeah, for your personal accounts. For business, it's different. Facebook is somewhere people go to talk to friends and family, to share funny content, to relax, and to really take their minds off of other things. So for sharing content on a business page, 3 times a week is enough. And Saturdays is also a really good time to share, because people, are unwinding from the week, and that's when they're on Facebook, and that's when they're the most engaged. So I would do 2 times during the week and then once on a Saturday. For Twitter, it's really, really fast. It's always updating. Like I said, it's the most up-to-date news you can find is probably on Twitter. So you can post anywhere from 18 minutes to 2 hours. And that sounds like a lot, but we're going to talk about social media automation a little bit later and how you can do this without being on the computer all day long. But yeah, you can post quite often on Twitter. Pinterest, you can post as much as you want. Most of your pins are going to be curated. So you're going to have different boards, and you're going to pin images from other sources. So people don't really find pinning a lot on Pinterest annoying, especially because most people search by keywords. They don't generally just look through their stream. They'll search, for example, weddings, and everything about weddings will come up. Google Plus is about 1 to 2 times a day. There's not a whole lot of studies done on this. This number I got from some of the Google Plus superstars in the game, and they have suggested 1 to 2 times per day. I posted more, and the engagement still seems fine. But it's up to you how much you want to post. And again, it's about testing and tweaking it and finding out what your audience likes. And finally, LinkedIn themselves actually suggest that you post 20 times a month. And when you do the math, that's 5 times a week, and that's 1 post per weekday. Obviously, you can tweak this as much as you want, but LinkedIn does suggest 20 posts per month will reach 60% of your audience, which is actually a huge organic reach. So 20 posts a month, or 1 post per weekday. So now we need to figure out where to get started. I've given you a lot of information. How do you put that into play? your first step is to choose just one social media platform. Now, I know it's tempting to kind of go off and set up all maybe 5 of these, or 4 of these, or 2 of these even, but I really would suggest just starting off with one as a business and getting into the flow of using that and being consistent with your sharing before you go off and create anything else. Because the one thing you want to avoid is having a social media platform that's just empty, that no one's engaging with, that you're not sharing content on. So definitely just choose one and get very good at that before you kind of go off into the other ones. And to do this, or to make your decision, creating a pro and con list is really ideal. So I've kind of created a pro and con list with just 2 pros and 2 cons for each of them, just to give you an idea of maybe what ones will work best for you. So with Facebook, there is a lot of people on it and everyone loves to share content on it. That's amazing for marketing. And because most people are on it, there's this ease of communication that works amazingly for great customer service. So, you know, you can talk to customers really, really quickly on it. But because everyone is on it, it is quite noisy and it can be hard to be heard through everything else. So, and what happens is that, you know, people are getting a lot of content on their feeds and they're just not paying attention to it all. And it doesn't help that there's actually a really low organic reach on Facebook. So unless you're paying for ads, unless you're boosting your posts all the time, not all your followers will see your posts. The more they engage with you, the more of your posts they will see. But how do you get them to engage if they're not seeing your posts in the first place? And that's when it starts to get complicated and messy. And that's why people are starting to get kind of frustrated with Facebook in terms of how effective it is for marketing businesses. For Twitter, it's noisy, but brands and people still love it. People love Twitter because it's noisy. So tweets are really easy and they're quick. They're only 140 words. And it's really good for marketing. So 49% of people prefer to hear from businesses on Twitter than any other social media network. People expect to be marketed there. People expect to follow businesses and brands and see their content. In terms of con, like I said, Twitter is really fast. So you have to post quite often in order for it to be effective, which can be a con, which can be a pro, depending on how good you are with your marketing automation. Social media marketing automation, which I'll discuss in a little bit. And it isn't great for it isn't great for image-based content. So when you share an image on Twitter, it does get better engagement, but it doesn't highlight the product or graphic. So it doesn't, if you're trying to sell a specific, I don't know, stool or bar stool or something, you know, the bar stool image won't be highlighted that well on Twitter. Google Plus is amazing to talk to a super target audience. Like I said, the communities are so targeted and you can join specific ones and share your content there. And you can be guaranteed that everyone in that community will be actually interested in your post. Google Plus engagement can have a positive effect on your SEO too. The cons are that it's quite quiet still, and it's a kind of a love or hate platform. So people that don't like Google Plus really don't like it, and people who like Google Plus really like it. So definitely a love-hate situation going on there. LinkedIn has a really large organic reach. So like I said, 20 posts will get 60% of your audience. So you put content there and the chances are people will see it. And it establishes credibility and with connections. So, you know, you're not just a business that is on the web, and, you know, you need to build up trust, and you need to show your connections that you know, are legitimate and that you have really good ideas and you have interesting things to say. On the negative side of things, it's a small niche. So, you know, B2Cs don't really work effectively on it. And it can actually be really slow to set up and get going. So you don't see a lot of results from the get-go. So you have to be a little bit persistent to make LinkedIn work for you. Pinterest gets more traffic, like I said, than Twitter, LinkedIn, Reddit, and Google Plus combined, because it's really, really consumer focused, and that's amazing. Another positive is that your pins stay active for a long period of time. So even when you're putting new pins up there, the old pins are still just as useful. The bad side of things is that, again, it's a small niche and B2Bs really aren't on it yet. Not to say it's not completely ineffective for B2Bs, but it just hasn't been picked up that well for them yet. It's also more effective for businesses that have products. So if you have high quality images of products, that's where your business really can go to shine, is on Pinterest. But if you have a service, it's a little bit tougher. So as you can see, there are a lot of pros and cons for every social media network. And I would suggest just choosing one of them based off of how much time you have, what content. So just choose one and get started doing that one really, really well before you move on to any others. So to get started, you need to set up a business page. So all of the platforms that I mentioned today have a business page. All the 5 platforms that I mentioned have a business page, except for Twitter. And Twitter is just about setting up, your a business handle where you're going to be discussing your business. So you need to create a business page, and then you need to fill out the form really, really thoroughly. So by that, I do mean contact details. If you have a business phone number, put it up. If you have a business email, put it up. If you have definitely your website, put it up. And what your business is, that needs to go there too. Really, really important for establishing trust is allowing people to get in contact with you. So contact details are important, and it does establish credibility again. Your About Me section is also important. It lets people know who you are. It gives you a chance to tell people what your business does. Your profile photos and cover photos will give an impression of professionalism. So you're not lazy. You filled this out well, and you went the extra mile and made sure everything looks good. And obviously, when that's done, you're going to add your social media links to your website and to your emails, so that people who visit your website or get an email from you can also follow you on social media. So that's very important. So once your business page is set up, you want to start creating a posting schedule. So this is where we're going into social media automation. I like to create my post or my social media shares in batches, and I find this really manageable. And by that I mean I schedule all my social media sharing for the day or for the week or for the month in one go. I do it per day because we share quite a lot of content, but if you're sharing, say, for Facebook, that's 3 times a week. You can do that once a week. And that way you'll be consistently sharing content without having to take time out of every single day to do so. So, we all have weekends. We all take time off. We all go on holidays. We all have, meetings or clients that we need to talk to. We need to be creating content, and we need not to be distracted. We need to spend time with our kids, or whatever it is. You're still sharing content on your social media platforms. So you don't need to remember at 9 o'clock every morning to go on and tweet to your audience, because that's just going to be happening in the background. So there are tons of tools that do that. For example, Buffer, Spokal, IFTTT, Social Oomph, Hootsuite are all amazing choices. For beginners, the Buffer and Hootsuite have free packages, so you can just get on that and use those without having to pay a dime. IFTTT has, and Social Oomph are the same. Spokal has a free trial, so you can see how that works. But again, it's all about personal preferences when it comes to choosing what social media automation platform works best for you. So the 4 key takeaways that I want you to leave with are: do your research and choose just one platform to get started. Fill out your profile as thoroughly as you can. Use the 5-3-2 rule and the timing guide as a template only, just to get started, and then test it and tweak it and see what works best for you. And then create a posting schedule and use a social media automation tool to share your content throughout the week. So thank you so much for watching, and we've come to the end of the webinar, and I'm going to open up the floor to some questions. So how much time do you spend on social media? Again, it depends on what social media platform you're on. So personally, we use Twitter, and we use Facebook a little bit. We use Google Plus, and I'm kind of starting Pinterest, although, like I said, it's not great for B2B, so it's not that effective for us yet. So I would spend maybe like half an hour a day doing the batch social sharing, and then I would spend maybe 10 minutes looking through the posts and answering questions and asking questions and just engaging on social media in the morning. And then I'd spend another maybe 10, 15 minutes in the evening doing the same thing and just engaging and, you know, having conversations on social media. How do you get new followers? It's about engaging with people on social media. Like I said, it's about having conversations. It's about making people want to follow you because you're sharing really cool content, because you're giving a wow experience, and because you're interesting. Another tip is to always follow people that you're interested in. So follow people in your industry, follow people that you think will be interested in your product or service. And, you know, not everyone's going to follow you back, but some people are. You know, just be active on those social media platforms with your business page, and people will start following you and being interested in what you have to say. Is it a good idea to hire someone to handle your social media accounts? Yes and no. So if you have the budget, yeah, of course, hire a social media expert. If you don't have the budget and you're thinking of just, you know, letting your niece intern for you by handling the social media accounts, I would be just very, very careful to monitor that and make sure that they are always sharing something that you agree with, that's consistent with your brand image, that's consistent with the ethos of your business and the ethics of your business. But you don't have to hire somebody. It's definitely manageable to do it yourself. It just takes a little bit of time to get into the rhythm of using social media and to automate the social media and to know where to find content and to know what content to share and to have enough content of your own to share. But once you set all that up, it's not necessary to have somebody to handle your social media accounts. You know, some of the biggest CEOs in the world still handle their own social media accounts. And they enjoy it. So I'm thinking specifically of Richard Branson here, but there are other CEOs that handle their own social media. So yeah, it just kind of depends on yourself, really. There's not a good and bad solution here, as long as you're being consistent with sharing your content and you're sharing good content and you're sharing content from other people. You know, you can figure out who gets to do that, whether it's you or if it's somebody else. Okay, so that's all the questions we've had today. Thank you so much again for joining me. If you have any more questions, please feel free to send me an email. Just reply to the webinar emails that I've been sending you for this, and excuse me, yeah, just send me an email with your questions, or even if you just want to say hello, feel free to send me a quick email and I'll get back to you ASAP. So until we meet again, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I wish you the best of luck with your social media marketing.